Hello, everybody. So the first thing I would say is whoever the level manager is for Candy Crush Soda Saga, take a look at 1597. It's really hard. Frank talked about creating data culture. And underneath data culture, we view the path to getting there in layers. So we use three words when we talk about how we develop product and what we want to deliver. The first is access. Obviously, the most important thing that we need to do is deliver all of the data that we have inside our organization out to everyone in the organization. And sometimes I think BI tools skip over the complexity of getting all of the disparate SaaS tools and internal transactional databases and event data into one place. And we heavily rely on a lot of the partners outside, but the software that allows you to control that access and really deliver data to your users is incredibly important. The second part is this idea of analytics. So drilling into row level, doing correlation analyses, and obviously presenting that data is incredibly important to being able to deliver data. And often forgotten is what you're actually doing all of this stuff for, which is actually taking action on the data. So rather than just stopping at that backwards-looking dashboard, how do I go change a process of what I'm doing? We don't want to stop at just delivering visual examples. We want to connect into the workflows that make the business work more effectively. And it's about more than the people in this room. So I think classically, BI tools have been built for the data analyst, and we're no exception. I was a customer 5 years ago, and Looker grew up without visualization in the original product. It was a tool for exploring data. But for a business to be successful, we need everyone in the organization to have access to everything in the platform. And that means delivering marketers a great experience. That means delivering support reps a great experience, and sales engineers and sales reps. Everyone needs access to data to do their job better. It is that hungry workforce that we want to deliver the product to. So we've spent a lot of time thinking about what enables this type of user. And again, in the history of Looker, we've focused a lot on the data analyst experience and the really technical, powerful backend, and we're never going to forget that. But a lot of the focus in 2018 is on really drilling into the end user experience and creating power for those users as well. So we've done a lot of research into what makes end users more successful in the product. And the first thing that you guys are going to have available and be able to see is this idea of actionable content in Looker. So all of the data that exists is great, but if your users can't find it and it doesn't feel good to work with and they don't understand what it is, then they're not going to get the same value from it. So we've built algorithmic suggestion to find users that look like your users, so taking advantages of groups and roles and the types of permissions you have and what your users are doing in the product. So what are people using? What have people been using recently? We want to make discovery a seamless experience in Looker. So really consumerizing BI for your users is important to our success. But it needs to work better with you guys involved. So it needs to work out of the box by default. We need to discover things for your users. You guys need to be able to lay on admin controls to promote things that maybe we can't understand. A really important concept to making Looker successful is it needs to work by default, but we believe in the data analyst as the leverage point. So when intelligent people are sitting on top of that system, we want to make it so that you guys can improve it. So the second thing that we found was incredibly important was delivering data outside of the system. So this is a view of the new scheduler experience in Looker and delivering data outside the product. The idea here is that data is valuable, and we're going to drive people to the web experience. And obviously, you guys probably want people using Looker and exploring and things like that. But the passive consumption of data is equally important. And we need to make that easy, and we need to make it feel good, and we need to make it discoverable for users. So over the next year, we're also going to be looking at things like suggesting scheduling and more progressive alerting functionality. But again, it all comes back to taking action. So the last piece that we're going to talk about is the action hub in Looker. So again, we can think about the consumption of data as simply reading in CSVs or dashboards or things like that. But when we went out and looked at how people are actually using the Looker product, they're doing more than just reading in a table of data and understanding where the business is at. They're pulling things like customer lists and pushing them into sales automation tools. They are backing up data sets. They are creating workflows to alert users or to alert engineers that a part of the product is down. And so with the Action Hub, we can now schedule Looker content and Looker data sets not only into things like email and S3 and sort of raw destinations, but also directly into workflows, so Slack or HipChat or marketing automation tools, so that your users don't need to go through that workflow of finding a report, downloading it, pushing it into a tool, which may seem like sort of a trivial experience, but the more that we can create these sort of natural workflows for users, the more they're going to be naturally using data to make decisions and integrate it into their process. And I'd be negligent if I didn't talk about what we are doing in terms of security and privacy. So we are not going to have a cookie banner as a service to help you guys with GDPR, but the centralized analysis of data gives us the ability to control where your users are actually accessing data from. So when data is spread into multiple tools, there's a sprawl and understanding of what data is getting consumed, where personal information is, and how data is accessed. Looker provides a central point of access for a lot of the data work that you're doing. So when you're using our APIs and building things on top of your service, it's one less thing to pay attention to. Second, we have much finer cache controls in terms of how Looker is actually controlling data. So when we access data, we are going directly into the database. We're not moving data. And when we take those raw data views outside, we're holding it in the cache for a period of time that's relatively short and giving you guys control over it. So the idea here is, as you guys continue to have greater compliance needs, we want to be there to support those. The next piece I want to talk about is what we do beyond the Looker technology itself. So we are going to keep developing software that feels good to use and is easy for your users. But really what makes Looker powerful at its core is all of the business logic that you're putting into it. And I was actually a customer before I joined Looker, and a lot of what I was doing was building expertise around my business, but I was also learning about how to do new types of analysis. I don't think any of us in the room are experts as every single type of data source that you're working with or every single type of analysis that you're doing. So a couple years ago, we created this concept of blocks. And what blocks are they're multiple layers of LookML code and other types of code that you can actually push into the system to build sort of accelerators and new understanding. And some of those are data sets. Some of those help you analyze new types of data that services that you're using, things like Salesforce or Marketo or Zendesk or other types of tools. Some of them help you do different types of analysis, so funnel analysis or specific types of analysis. And some of them will just help you visualize the data better. So things like visualization blocks will let you extend what the Looker UI is doing to actually build your own custom visualizations and actually install visualizations into the product. And the idea here is we want to have a central software product that works really well. But all the ways that Looker connects to how your business works and your ecosystem and visualization and where data is getting delivered, all of those touch points are incredibly important to the user experience that your customers are having. So maybe Looker won't have 100 visualizations in the product. We're never going to do everything that you guys want to do, but we're going to give you shortcuts to go do those things yourself and to accelerate and build any type of thing that you want to build on top of Looker. So these are a couple examples of a sunburst visualization, a tree map. We have things like word clouds for people that want those. I think we even have a 3D word cloud for the VR users. But the idea here is we're never going to support everything, and we want to be extensible. So when we gave you guys all of these tools, kind of Frank talked about it, but we actually were inspired by the things that you were building. I can tell you as a customer that I was not the most sophisticated builder of user experience. And at one point, I actually made everyone an admin in our instance because they didn't have a permission for a specific object yet. So there are good and bad ways to manage a Looker instance. But the general idea is you guys are building these incredible experiences on top of both the vanilla Looker experience, but also all of these blocks and components and visuals. And the reason that you're doing this is because your users need to do more than generic BI. There's always going to be needs for things like exploring data and pivot table type experiences and dashboarding. Those are never going to go away, and we need to continue to be great at those and continue to make that better. But when we look at specific business problems, there are specific needs that users have. So if I'm a marketer and I have a performance budget, I'm going to go spend money on Facebook, and I'm going to go spend money on Google, and I'm probably going to do some display advertising. I am not an expert in any of those three sources, but I know that the structure of what a person is doing is going to be very similar in all of those contexts. And that's what Frank was talking about when he talked about applications. It's taking all of these components together and building richer workflows for doing this sort of analysis. So this is an early look at an application that we're building around marketing analytics that takes in, right now, Google campaign data through the BigQuery transfer service. So this is actually a very custom dashboard that is looking at a performance marketer and their spend over time. And you'll notice that this very much is a dashboard right now. It's a little bit more rich visually, but this is a dashboard. But what's important about this dashboard is it's purpose-built to actually go take action on a data set. So I've noticed that my cost per conversion is increasing. This is the type of thing that a marketer is doing day to day. And we can deliver them a BI experience, and it's great if they want to go slice and dice that. But we also know what they need to do. They need to go find campaigns that are working. They want to understand that their budget is getting worse over time, and they need to go improve that. So it's things like workflows, drilling into campaigns, slicing them by country, finding the campaigns that aren't working. So this is an example of a set of keywords. I can actually see the performance of each individual keyword. I can do things like sort them. I've got spark lines. And importantly, I can actually go take action on this data inside the product. So I can actually pause a keyword and change a bid. And this is an example of that fully implemented sort of end-to-end visual take action. We have a framework so that we can actually all go build these ourselves. And we actually were inspired by a couple of customers as we built this application. So the idea here is I can deliver my marketer a specific experience to make the product better for them and to make their job more effective. So this is another example with operational analytics. And this was actually inspired by a customer in the States, Heroku, who came to talk at a new hire training about how they had saved about $3 million in AWS hosting expenses using our Looker block and sort of a canned experience that they had built. Unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of that revenue, but the idea here is we can take what we learn from them and we can actually make it easier for you guys to go apply those things. And even better than that, for your DevOps engineers to simply just go create a better experience and save money. So this takes a look at EC2 instances. It's looking at cost by reservation type. So for people that are dealing with this, you've got reserved instances and on-the-fly instances. We can look at our spend over time. We can drill into that spend. Again, workflow is native in everything that we're building here. We can look at our spend. We can actually go directly reserve an instance. So these are sort of simple examples, but the ideas here are just taking all of these different components and going beyond the dashboard BI experience to deliver your end users that full experience so that they are making decisions and it's seamless in their workflow. So in closing, I just want to say thank you to everyone here. So I was a customer about 5 years ago, and when I started using the product, actually Lloyd was my sales engineer. And I think more than the product itself, there was this feeling that Looker cared deeply about me as a customer and my success. And I just want to reiterate how important you guys are to all the work that we're doing. When you give us feature requests, when you're talking to our support agents, when you're giving us feedback on the product, that is so important to how we are developing. And we truly view it as a strategic advantage having you guys as partners and being able to listen to you guys and develop what we're developing. So please keep giving us feedback. Come find me if you want to chat more. But again, thank you. And I'm going to kick it over to John O'Keefe to close things out and get you ready for the day.